Okay, so for this one, it's going to be HEY is congruent to MAN, so hey man, is congruent by, you have an angle, you have a side, and you just have to determine, so same thing we were just talking about. Is it angle, side, angle, or is it angle, angle, side? So here's my angle, here's my angle. Is the side that connects those marked congruent? No, the answer is no. So it has to be angle, angle, side. Great. So we know that these two triangles are congruent, but we're going to introduce one little extra layer here that is called CPCTC, which is just a lot of letters. And it stands for, I'm going to say it, but you do not have to memorize this. It is corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. But that's just a lot of words. You just need to know that CPCTC part. And all it means is once you have marked a triangle congruent, so like once you have proven angle, angle, side, or side, 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 or any of those 5 reasons, that means all the other pieces of the triangle are also going to be congruent. So notice like only 3 things are actually marked congruent, but we know that those triangles are congruent by angle, angle, side. So that means you also have angle H. See how angle H is not marked? Because we've marked it, or we've shown that it's congruent by AAS, we know that H and M are congruent. Okay? So it's pretty much everything that's not marked on the triangle can now be proven congruent because it's been proven by angle, angle, side. So the next one, HY, is congruent to MN, and you can tell that based on H and Y are the first letter, last letter, M and N are the first and last letter. And then the last one is EY, and that's congruent to AN. And then how do I know that? Honestly, you're really just looking, EY and AN are the last 2 letters, but they're not marked here. So you're really just looking for things that are not marked on your triangle, but you can prove them congruent because you've already proven the 2 triangles congruent. So hopefully that's helpful and kind of understand, like, it's no different than yesterday. You're proving the triangle congruent, and then you're just adding one extra step on the end and showing, oh, there's also another side that's congruent because we've proven the triangle's congruent. Okay? So let's show you guys like what that actually means in a proof. This one says angle 1 is congruent to angle 2, and that is already written for us in the given, so that's nice. It also says that AC is congruent to AR. So I'm going to pause for a second. I want you to take that given, and I want you to mark that on the picture. Okay, one thing that's very important that I don't want you to mark. So if you marked this, you need to take your pencil and erase it. Do not mark angle 3 congruent to angle 4. Okay, and that's kind of confusing. Why would we not do it? Well, that's what we're trying to prove. We don't know that for sure. So if you marked it, it's okay. Just take that off of your picture. Don't mark it. So AC is congruent to AR. So make sure you have a marking here and here and that they match. You can have 2 there and 2 there for the little marks. That's fine, but I just put 1 because it's the first thing we've marked. And then we're going to mark angle 1 congruent to angle 2. All right, great. So we have angle 1 and 2 are congruent. We have those 2 sides are congruent. And so we have an S, we have an A, and we've got to look at our picture and figure out what else we can mark. So there's 2 things that you can mark on this triangle without it being given. One of those is the reflexive side, the shared side that we just talked about we talked about it. And then the other thing are vertical angles. So if you look at it and you think, I see a bow tie right there, then you're going to be able to mark vertical angles. You've got to be able to identify that because they will not be marked for you. So those are vertical angles. Angle RAS is congruent to angle CAL. So I'm going to pause for a second and give you guys a chance to write that down. So they are vertical angles. So I want us to look at this picture, and I want to figure, all right, we're going to cover it. So everyone humor me and just cover one side up with your hand and look at it with me. And notice we've got 2 angles and 1 side. And we've got to determine, is the side directly in between the angles? So here's the 2 angles. Is that side touched by those angles? It would have to be right there if it was angle, side, angle. It's not. So the only thing it can be is angle, angle, side. And another way you can tell is just by like going around the triangle and saying, okay, there's an angle, and then another angle comes next, and then a side, without skipping any angles, okay? So angle, the other angle, then the side. And you look at the other side, same thing, angle, angle, side. So you have now written all three of the things. You have proven these triangles congruent by angle, angle, side. And if you remember yesterday, in order to prove those triangles congruent, it's like triangle, and then you just write the letters. C-A-L is congruent to, and then, so R matches C, because we're trying to prove that congruent. They are congruent, we just aren't there yet. And then 2 and 1, so S and L match and the A's match. So C-A-L, R-A-S, because L and S match. Okay, and then everything we've done so far, we did this yesterday. This is not new, okay? But then we get down to this one right here, and the only thing that's new is it's telling us to prove something different. So because we know these two triangles are congruent, we know that it's CPCTC. You don't have to have that memorized on the quiz tomorrow. I'm going to give you guys like all of the possible reasons it could be, just like a list of them. All right, so we've got angles now, and some of you guys really struggle with marking angles, so I want to give you the opportunity. I'm going to pause and have you mark those. So NLM is up here, LNO is down here. That has one arc mark. And then it gives us another angle that's congruent. So OLN is here. We're going to mark it with 2. MNL, we're also going to mark with 2. How did I find MNL? I started at M, go to N, and then to L. So like this is the angle that is opened up by M and L. The middle letter is always going to be where you place your mark. All right, great. So we have 2 angles. And then we have no way to figure out the other angle, but there is a reflexive side. So there's only 2 things that you can mark, and we talked about it, and we keep talking about it. Vertical angles, like the bow tie and the problem above, and then reflexive sides. This is the other thing that is not going to be marked for you ever, and you have to be able to identify it. So the way you identify it is just LN is congruent to LN. How did I know that? Because LN is the same side and they're touching. And that is that reflexive property. And now we have angle, angle, side written here, but if we look at this picture, it's actually, you've got your angle here. So I covered up this bottom triangle, kind of looking at the more top right triangle. You've got L, and you've got N, and you've got the side in between it. So this was actually angle, side, angle. So that proves those triangles congruent. And I think here's what gets lost in the shuffle. The difference between yesterday and today is the prove. So what you write at the end. I want you to stay right here on your paper, but I'm going to show you from the notes yesterday. Like they always ended on prove the 2 triangles are congruent. Today, for CPCTC, we are proving the 2 triangles are congruent on the second to last step. And then one extra step is added, prove that these angles that aren't marked are actually congruent. So the step before this one is always going to be the triangles. If your prove is not the triangles, it's going to be the step right before. So triangle LNO, and this is the like confusing one. And notice the difference. This is also not angle N is congruent to angle N, because that can get confusing. That's LN. LNO, so L matches N on the other triangle. So L and N both have the same marking. And then N matches L on the top triangle. And then M. Oh. So LNO, NLM. And why is that congruent? Because of angle, side, angle. Then the last one is the only new thing we're talking about today. Angle M is congruent to angle O. Well, it's not marked in the picture. How do we know that? Well, it's because we've already proved those triangles congruent. Therefore, it's going to be congruent by CPCTC. Or, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Just a lot of letters, but all you have to do is write the letters. And then that's it for today. It's really just the same thing we did yesterday, but it adds one extra step to the end.